The Unemployment Insurance Fund, UIF, has agreed to help out the post office to the tune of 381 million rand over 6 months. This money will be provided via the UIF's Temporary Employer-Employee Relief Scheme, or TERS, and will be valid for 6 months. It's expected to be a lifeline for almost 6,000 jobs at the struggling entity. Let's speak to Levy Zwane, who is the General Secretary of the Democratic Postal and Communication Union. Mr. Zwane, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Give us a sense of where the South African Post Office would have been without this 381 million rand agreement with UIF.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and the viewers at home. Situation in SAPO is very dire because at some point SAPO had to go to Department of Digital and Communication to request additional funding to pay salaries of employees. So the intervention from Department of Labor, it's something that is extraordinary, that will assist employer to able to pay salaries of employees even for the period of 6 months. At least it's a bit of a briefer from employees going forward to be assured that they will get their salaries in the period that the TERS will be going.
Right. So the 381 million rand is primarily for salaries, and that means that the money that the post office would have spent on salaries can now go towards getting the organization on its feet.
You are correct, Michelle. Remember, post office is under business rescue currently. And then there is a plan that should be implemented. And one of our worries, the trade union, was in that plan, the business rescue practitioners decided to implement one aspect of the plan of retrenching employees without even implementing some of the aspect which talks about modernization of post office, having tools of trade, and bringing new businesses going forward. So we are hopeful that with this kind of intervention, there will be a much more focus, especially on workers, because we are dealing with the situation where in SAPO, workers of South African Post Office has almost 7 years without salary increases. So we are hopeful that with this kind of intervention, management will really look at the plight of workers to ensure that they intervene accordingly.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely important that the jobs are safeguarded, right? But is the 6-month period enough, just given the history of how the post office has been struggling? Is this 6-month period enough now to turn things around?
No, it's not enough. I can tell you it's not enough, Michelle. It's an issue of a professional intervention. There is discussion between the SAPO and the Department of Digital and Communication in terms of long-term strategy and how they can assist SAPO. One of our major issues also is the union. Remember, there is a Postal Amendment Act that was signed by President in December. That literally says post office will get government businesses from the signature of that bill. So if our people, especially BRP, can follow in that thing to ensure that post office get government businesses, post office surely will get out of this kind of situation where it is in terms of financial constraints.
The post office has previously talked about wanting to be financially stable, financially in the clear, and to be more digitally connected, so more tech savvy, at least by 2028, Mr. Zwane. We've talked about whether these 6 months are enough to turn things around, given this bailout by UIF. Is this now 2.5-year period enough to reach those kinds of goals, digitally savvy and financially in the clear?
Look, Michelle, it will depend on the kind of intervention that main shareholder will do in terms of government. Remember, we are talking about South African Post Office, which is struggling currently in terms of giving employees tools of trade. So if we are talking about modernization, digitization of SAPO going forward, it really needs a lot of financial injection from primarily from the main shareholder, which is a government going forward. So if nothing is going to be forthcoming, I can tell you, Michelle, we're still going to be having a challenge of SAPO in next 5 years going forward.
Right. I mean, the workers now that have this 6-month lifeline alongside the South African Post Office, I can't imagine that 6 months is enough to put your mind at ease in terms of job security.
Look, to be in post office is very hard. I can tell you. I'm telling you about workers who are at SAPO, who are also spending their own money in terms of buying tools of trade in SAPO. These are the kind of employees who have not been receiving any salary increase for a period of 7 years. You can just imagine what kind of employees are. These are people who are saying we are loyal to employer, but employer is not even considerate in terms of the financial or economic conditions of the employees going forward. So I can tell you, situation on the ground level is not nice because employees' morale are very low when considering that in as much as they are working, but the kind of money that they are getting, and even not so sure whether they get their money at the end of the month, it's something that is highly demoralizing.
I mean, we don't have many jobs in the country that are vacant, Mr. Zwane, but do you reckon this might lead the post office to lose employees who just need greener pastures?
It's possible, especially those who have skills. They decide to move away from post office. But I can tell you, Michelle, post office has serious important future. Even if our government can intervene accordingly to ensure that post office do kind of business that it should be doing in our communities and services our people accordingly. One of our major struggles in post office is we having our management who is not even going outside to get new businesses for SAPO. Hence, we always find ourselves in a financial situation whereby each and every month SAPO will just say they don't have money, because if you don't attract new businesses, you cannot have money to run the business going forward.
Certainly. Mrs. Zwane, let me thank you for your time this afternoon. The General Secretary of the Democratic Postal and Communication Union. We talk about this 380 million rand bailout the post office has received over a 6-month period to pay salaries.